All right, folks. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for episode 657 of the RecPoker podcast. This is our weekly chats interview edition, but we also have a weekly forums edition that's all about poker strategy. I'm Jim Reid, your host for both. I go by Dochery in the home game and RecPoker Jim on socials, and I have the best freaking job in the world talking poker with my friends every Monday night on the RecPoker podcast at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. Join us for free, and you can win a prize just for showing up. Now, we're going to be speaking to David Docherty in just a moment. First, I'm proud to share that we're brought to you by Running Aces. They are the official sponsor of the RecPoker podcast, and we're going to be having a great time with them at the end of the month, so stick around to the end of the show. We'll have some more details about that. But most of what we do here at RecPoker is free, and all it takes to join our community is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. And since we're a largely volunteer-based organization, we really depend on support from our sponsors and from our premium members who take part in our more advanced training materials and study opportunities for only $22 a month. Normally, you can get your first month of RecPoker Premium membership for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. But I want to say, starting last year, if you want to get your first month for free, all you have to do is make a donation of any amount to a local food bank. We love supporting local food banks here at RecPoker. So make a donation of $1 or more to a local food bank. Send us the receipt. We'll happily send you your first month of premium membership for free. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays. I'm only one man. It takes a group, a gang, a crew, a village to make all the magic happen around here. We call our leadership panel the RECing Crew. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up because you're going to meet a few of them right here on the air as we talk about what we've been getting up to for the last week. For me, it's been all day job. Day jobs suck. I've been doing my end of year reporting and all my tax prep stuff. It blows. I hate my admin stuff, but what are you going to do? Is how we put food on the table. I did get away to a buddy's place on the weekend. Mrs. Blusterini and I went and had fun at a friend's place. We played a new board game I'd never played before called Code Names. I don't know if anyone else has ever played the game Code Names. It's 4+ players. It's a lot of fun. People check it out. Lorianne, what about you? Lorianne Persinger, you are a RecPoker Crew member and a panelist here on the RecPoker podcast. What have you been getting up to?
Well, this past week, my husband and I helped our son celebrate his 30th birthday. So that was a lot of fun. Actually, we had a great time, which is why I missed out on last Monday's podcast. And then, unfortunately, over the weekend, I would like to request a moment of silence for my Denver Broncos. It did not go well yesterday. So, but other than that, I'm doing just peachy.
You didn't even have to mention, you didn't even have to bring up the playoff football. We got a few.
Oh, I think I did.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we don't have to get into that. What about you, Joe? What have Joe Coolis? What have you been up to lately?
Well, I mean, like everybody else, in the world, if you come in Wisconsin, you know that the minute that the Packers lose, there is just an entire pall that is cast, and nobody has anything else to talk about or anything good about the world. So I'm moving through the 19 stages of grief that Packer fans do when the season ends. So it's a great little experiment. If you ever want to watch it, just wander into Wisconsin after the Packers lose, and you will see what depression looks like.
Yeah, so that's a lot of stages. That's a lot of stages of grief. So the Broncos are out, the Packers are out, the Steelers are out. This has been kind of a brutal week for the RecPoker Crew. Rob Washam, you're still a Minnesota Vikings fan, even though you sold out and moved to Arizona and retired.
I don't believe that's selling out. That's just getting away from the snow. Speaking of which, I mean, this community I live in, it's a gated 55+ community, and all of a sudden there is a ton of people here. I think the holidays are over. People are coming in the beginning of January to get out of the snow from Minnesota. And I think there's a bunch of people from Washington that live here. I actually see license plates from Alberta, Canada. They come down here to spend the winter. So that just all what that means is our local community poker game is now huge. It's 50 to 60 people now. So it's a lot more fun.
Nice. And of course,
every week?
It's two times a week. Every Tuesday. Actually, they do it on Saturday too. I haven't played the Saturday game, but every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, they have a game, and they have 50 to 60 people that show up, and It's just a little $15 buy-in tournament structure, very turbo-y, but it's a lot of fun. You get to know your your neighbors that you wouldn't normally get to meet. So
Yeah. Lorianne, that might be worth the drive. It could be a good game to get into. I don't know.
I'm too young for that.
That's true. That's a great point. That's a great point.
As far as you know.
There's no age restriction on coming into play. I mean, there's been some, people's daughters and sons come in sometimes and they'll play.
Oh, I definitely qualify for the 55 and older. So yeah.
John, we were talking earlier, speaking of snow on the ground, that was something that you were looking forward to about this week, I think.
Yeah, I'm still young enough that I don't mind the snow, and if it's going to be brown, it may as well be white as far as I'm concerned. So since we have no green on the trees, I want white on the ground. And we finally have a snow covering, even though there are places south of us that have far more snow than we do.
Yeah, it hardly seems fair. It's pretty cold up here, but we got a little dusting, but it's just ice, unfortunately. What about you, Chris Jones?
Well, I went to the shop today and replaced 4 new tires after I got a nail exploding one of them and a few other things. So that was a nice $1,000 down the drain. But anyway, got that done. And then last week I missed the episode because I was watching my favorite Timberwolves, who aren't having the best season, but I had a great time. So that was fun, and
nice.
Cheering on the Vikings tonight and living for the Schadenfreude coming from Wisconsin. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to zip through the closing the action and some of the later segments in the show here, so we can get these guys to the TV, because it's Skol time. The Vikings are playing in the playoffs. Let's give them something to cheer about. Yeah, sorry, Joe. I know it doesn't feel right coming down. Andrew Feist is also very upset with us right now. But listen, this is it started in Minnesota. We're gonna tip our hat to the Minnesotans. All right, that's enough of that. I would love nothing more than to talk to David freaking Docherty. David, I'll just throw a little info at our members if they don't know. You're a Scottish pro. You're a really fun guy. You've had some fantastic earnings over the last while. We got to hang out in Las Vegas a little bit in November. Welcome to the RecPoker podcast, my man. I'm so glad you could make it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jim. I'm not sure how much use I'm going to be if the conversation turns to NFL, but when it comes to code names, like, that is one of my favorite games. So if you guys ever want me back on here, and we'll just have a code names game over Zoom, that's fine with me. That's
great. Awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's great. I really liked it. Did you like play when you were younger? Is it a game you play with your friends? How'd you get into it?
I found it during the pandemic, so I played it a fair bit online. You can play it through the browser. There's also like a board game version of it. So I bought the board game version at Christmas this year and was showing it to my family, and we had a bunch of games at Christmas. But yeah, I found it like 5 years ago. God, it sounds so weird now, doesn't it?
I know.
Pandemic was like 5 years ago, but yeah, that was the first time I played it.
That's fantastic. Now, you say you're not a big American football fan, but I'm guessing from the poster in the back there that you're a bit of a footy fan, in some capacity at least.
I am actually, but not of this team. I'm in a hotel room in Coventry in the UK right now, and the hotel is inside Coventry's football stadium. So all of the rooms have like random pictures of their team from over the years. I don't know which trophy they won in this. I don't know if I can see it. FA Cup final 1987. There we go. The team. It's quite weird, actually. They're a small team, and 1987 was the year I was born. So
wow.
They won the FA Cup the year I was born. It's didn't know that
very
until
cool.
I turned around just now. There we go.
How about that? And are they like a competitor of your? Who's your team? All right, and I know there's different leagues and that kind of stuff, but like, who do you root for?
Yeah, I support Glasgow Celtic, so they're a Scottish side. Coventry are English, so we never really meet. It would have to be European competition if we ever met, and Coventry aren't good enough to get to that level. So it's fairly likely we'll never play each other.
Well, we're getting some comments in the YouTube chat already. Some other codename fans, Stuart Carriage and Kim Kilroy. So we know the poker fans forever are having some fun in codenames here. But David, we we've already gotten off track here. I like to start by letting you kind of set the table. So in case no, how could we not? In case our guests don't know anything about you at all, how would you define your own role in the poker world today?
I mean, that's such a difficult question to answer, honestly.
Excellent. Good.
I think, yeah, thanks for the nice soft introduction. I mean, I would say I got fairly lucky in 2023, where I won the Irish Poker Open, which is the longest running tournament in the world outside of the World Series main event. It only runs once a year. There's not many people who've been able to win it. So just having my name on that list boosted my profile quite a lot in the UK and Europe, I think. And I've been trying to build on that since then. Last year wasn't so good results wise, but you know, I'm still showing up to all the tournaments, and I'm pretty sure more big results will be around the corner. But yeah, I think I kind of have to if I'm going to have a legacy in poker, I think I kind of have to build it off of that result. And in terms of how I see myself in the community, how I want to, you know, progress my image or whatever, I think I just want to keep supporting good stops. I want to be seen as a player who is always mindful of what is best for the players. For example, the event that I'm at right now, I didn't play a lot of this particular tour last year, because they had a leaderboard system which I didn't think was very favorable towards recreational players. And I was quite vocal about getting that changed, and I didn't play any of the events last year because of that, but they have changed it this year. So that's just like one small little insight into my mentality, I think. Yeah, I just kind of want to be a voice for the players in the long term. And while I don't maybe have that voice as strongly as I would like it right now, I'm working on building it as much as I can. So yeah, I'm very active in European poker circles. We of course met at the NAPT in Vegas. I do try and play in Vegas once or twice a year. But yeah, I'm like a regular on the EPT circuit. I'm a regular in the UK, so it would be pretty unusual if UK players tuning in didn't know me. But I know that I'm a completely unknown quantity, I should say, in North America.
Well, I mean, that's a great answer and a very commendable mandate. You know, I think, you know, we've already talked about this, but like the world of recreational poker needs a lot of help. You know, those folks need a lot of encouragement. We got to grow the game. We got to make it more fun. We got to make them better players, and you know, advocating for them on the felt, but also with things like the rake structure, with things like the leaderboard. You know, I think that's really, really admirable. Now, we met, as you mentioned, during the NAPT, and I got to say, it was one of my favorite conversations I've had in a while. You and me and David Lappin over like 1 a.m. tacos across the street from Resorts World. And yeah, I mentioned David Lappin was there, but there are good things that have come out of Ireland too. Like you mentioned, your Irish Poker Open win. I was going to come into that because that was, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Irish Poker Open. We actually had JP McCann on the show just a couple weeks ago talking about it. We're going to be talking to Paul O'Reilly again soon. You mentioned it really kind of put you on there, but that whole year, you were also the UK and Ireland Poker Tour Player of the Year. So it was not just the Irish Poker Open. Was there something, what was different in 2023 that had so many fantastic finishes? And I mean, if you could bottle it, you'd be doing it every year. But what did that year feel like?
I mean, what I would say is that I had a reputation for a number of years in the UK as someone who just never got lucky at the deep end of a tournament. I would finish 12th with, you know, 300k up top over and over and over again. And it got very, very frustrating for me, of course. I just had to keep getting on the horse and going again. I think building up to 2023, I'd had a couple of breakthrough results just before that. So I won a GUKPT tournament in very late 2021 for my first six-figure score. and then I final tabled EPT London, which is like a very, very difficult thing to do in late 2022. So my confidence was, pretty high at that point. And going into 2023, I don't think I'd ever entered a year like that before. Having done all the study, having started running well at the deep end, I'd never really entered a year like that so confident that it was going to go well. And it can still go terribly at that point. You do need the breaks. But yeah, when I came into that Irish Open tournament, I'd actually been in holiday right before it, or vacation, I should say. I don't know if that's
we knew what you meant. Yeah, we knew it.
I need to keep an eye out for my audience here. But yeah, I'd just been on vacation in Australia right before it, and so I just literally just came off a 30-hour flight to Dublin when I landed. So my jet lag was awful, but I think what actually happened was it stopped me doing anything stupid. I was so tired that my brain just went into default, don't do anything silly mode. And I remember I coolered the living daylights out of some poor guy on day one and bagged the chip lead and just never really looked back. Just was always in the top 10 of the tournament the whole time after that, basically. And then, yeah, just maybe a little bit of reputation after winning that helped me get a couple of other scores. People are always a little bit, it goes both ways. Some people are a little bit more fearful. Some players are a little bit more reckless against you when you have a title, when you have a reputation. And yeah, I just managed to get another few nice scores that year. And yeah, best year of my career so far. Didn't do so well last year, as I said, but don't feel like I've changed anything significantly. It's just, the variance has caught up with me a little bit again.
Sure. Well, that was actually my next question, because you've had 2021 you had a 6-figure score, 2022 you had a 6-figure score, 2023 you had the biggest score of your life, a little over 350 k euro at the Irish Poker Open, and then went on to win that Player of the Year. How does that, like, how do you decide what is successful and what is not after that? Like, doesn't that just like skew your own personal calibration for success, like to be a completely unrealistic thing?
Well, I see what you're saying, like, but in terms of motivation, I think that was the most difficult thing, because I'm fully aware after winning a title like that, my career might have just peaked now. Like, I might never do anything in this realm again. There's not many titles out there that are more prestigious than an Irish Open title.
Right.
It's pretty hard to win more than 350k in any given tournament. So it could definitely be the peak of my career, and it still could be. I've not really come close to it. I did actually get another 12th last year in the Moneymaker Tour in Vegas with a very similar first prize. So I sort of went back to old school David last year for a little bit. Where I favored 12th place finishes over first. But no, I think it's a good question, because I really don't know. I just have to try and keep that desire and the drive that I had before I won that tournament. And is it hard? It is if you think about it, but if you just sort of focus on what's in front of you, I think it becomes easier. I think one of the worst things you can do in poker, and I would have said this before I had that score, is set monetary goals. Set goals that are uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And if I come up with the goal of, this isn't going to be the pinnacle of my career. I want to beat this Irish Open score. I want to, final table the main event. I want to win an EPT. I want to do both of those things, but I know it's unrealistic to make a goal of doing that. So. Yeah, just see what happens, I guess, is the answer. Like, don't let it get into your head too much, because I might have won the Irish Open, but someone else is going to win it this year and have the same problems as me. So yeah.
Yes, I love it. I'm really enjoying this. I knew you were going to be a good guest. If anyone in the YouTube chat has any questions for David, just type them in and we'll make sure that we ask him in real time. I can't promise he'll answer them, but we'll ask them. That I can promise. And also, if you're in the YouTube chat, stick around. If you're here live, we're going to give away a prize at the end of the show to raise awareness to benefit a local food bank. And all you have to do is type the words food bank into the YouTube chat to win that prize. So stick around to the end of the show. And if you have any questions for David, don't hesitate to get them in there. We've got one actually in here from Big M. Says first time commenter, long time lover of David. So that he might be new to Rec Poker. But it sounds like they know you a little bit. It says, can you ask him his thoughts on a cheeky Nando's? So something tells me there's a story there. Can you fill us in?
I'm trying to think who that is. I think maybe I know who it is, but yeah, I basically, do you know what Nando's is? Like, I'm not sure if you
It's
have
like
it in Canada.
Is it a
or
chicken
America.
place or something? Is it like
It
a
is,
restaurant,
yeah,
chicken restaurant? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just a chicken restaurant, and I posted a little video earlier in the group chat where I was having a cheeky Nando's for dinner. So yeah, it's
there you go.
I've thrown the bag out now, so I can't show you. But
that's okay. They're not a sponsor. We don't want to show their logo anyway. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed the cheeky Nando's there. And yeah, our condolences to Mrs. Superstar. Our friend Phil. Apparently, his wife took a bit of a slip on the ice today. And she's not she's hurting a little, so okay, sorry to hear that, Phil, but yeah, we're all rooting for her. We know she's a patient woman putting up with you for however many freaking years this has been. We've got another question from Jack Hardcastle. How much of the Irish Open did you have to give away? I'm not sure if Jack means like from backing or I'm not sure. Maybe get some clarification in there, Jack.
No, this is I can answer that one for you, Jim.
Okay.
Jack is trolling in the chat because he had a good chunk of my Irish Open wins.
So,
I actually helped him buy his house with it. So
that's great.
He had a 6-figure piece of it, which was very nice for him.
All right, now is that the Jack that we met in Vegas at NAPT? Oh,
it is indeed.
Right
yeah.
on. Welcome, Jack Hardcastle. Nice to learn your last name. You were a fun guy to hang out with as well. Thanks for joining the show. Also, a bunch of other new members here. Gail Segrist says from Thunder Bay, Ontario, says hello. And Dana Craven wants to know, what is the poker scene like in Ireland? Does everybody play poker there? Actually, hold on to that thought for a second, Dave, because we're going to get into some Irish poker talk in the next segment here. But first, I want to throw to Lorianne because she was looking over your history as a player and had one question that she wanted to throw out there. Lorianne.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Hey, David, how you doing? I, as he said, was looking back on your Hendon Mob, and I noticed that your very first Hendon Mob cash is the 10K Aussie Millions. Now, knowing now that you were born in 1987, that makes you a ripe old 21 years old at the time. So how is it possible that that's your first cash, your 10K buy-in? I mean, I know Hendon Mob doesn't report everything, but I mean, based on that, you came out the gate swinging, or what's the backstory there pretty much?
Yeah, that's very perceptive of you, Lorianne. I
try.
So that was my first ever cash on the Hendon Mob, but it was my second ever tournament that I played live. My first ever tournament that I played live was the 2008 WSOP main event. So I really came out to.
So you came out live in 2 10Ks.
Yes, those were my first 2 live tournaments. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I used to I was at university in Glasgow and I studied computer science there, but I dropped out in 3rd year. And while I was off, I was already playing poker, like probably more than I should have been in university, like a lot of people in that generation. But while I dropped out in the January and got very heavily into poker very quickly. And I actually won a seat to the WSOP main event 3 days after my 21st birthday online. So I was an accomplished online tournament player at that time. As I say, I maybe started playing online when I was 19 or 20. So I had like 2 years online experience behind me. And back in that time, all the 19 and 20-year-olds played like 30 tables at a time.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I probably had like 15 years experience behind me as a 21-year-old. But yeah, that was really cool. I played the main event in Vegas. It's my first ever live tournament, my first 10K, and absolutely fell in love with the game like the live version of the game immediately. Wanted more. Had always wanted to go to Australia, so started playing qualifiers online for the Aussie Millions. Managed to qualify for that on, I think it was the 27th or 28th of December, and the tournament started on the 16th of January. So I then had to try and find flights with 2 weeks' notice from Scotland to Australia, which was a hellish experience. I ended up flying from, I live in Glasgow. I ended up flying from Glasgow to London, London to Singapore, Singapore to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne. It took 34 hours and I was exhausted at the end of it because I'd
So
never
it was
did
easier to
anything
win
like
the
that before.
seat than to actually get there, is what you're saying. Pretty much.
Yeah, much easier. Yeah, much easier. But I went on a pretty crazy sun run, I guess, in that tournament. I remember I bagged half a starting stack for at the end of day one, so it was 20,000 starting stack. I bagged 10k, and at the end of day two, I had 360k and was top 3 in chips. And funnily enough, it's kind of a shame that I'm not still in touch with these guys because they would probably love this story. But I used to post quite frequently on the 888 poker forums. And then we had our own little breakaway poker forum, and there was plenty of pros on there, but there was a lot of recreational players as well. And a lot of those guys supported me because they'd been chatting with me online for a couple of years. And they absolutely flooded the poker news website that was updating. And there were so many requests for updates on my stack that the poker news reporter came up to me, asked me what my name was, got the photographer over to take pictures of me. The TV cameras were over filming hands that I was in. And it was surreal because I had, players like Scotty Nguyen were on my table. Mike McDonald, Sorel Mitzi, Ivan Demidov, who had final tabled the main event the previous year. It was crazy for me. Like I'd never experienced anything like that. But
see, we probably all know those names. The younger people viewing may not. They'd be like, who? But definitely know the name that you're mentioning. It's definitely really.
And I should have gone deeper in that tournament. It was $2 million for first, and I bluffed all my chips off. So I should have gone deeper, but I was 21. I was full of bravado. I was like, you know what? I'm 4 days into this tournament. I can make you fold your flush, but she didn't fold her flush.
No, I was gonna ask, like, was it a good bluff and it just didn't go your way, or in retrospect, was it just not a good spot to take? Because I know those haunt you, right?
I actually wrote an article about this hand, so if you want to read up on it, you can just Google it. It was on poker.org. The hand was against Annette Obrestad, but it haunted me for like 10 years afterwards. It was a horrible bluff. It was such a bad bluff. Yeah.
Again, another name blast from the past that we are. Wow. Annette.
Yeah.
All right.
What a player she was, by the way. What a player.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, truly. Well, actually, so the next, we've got a couple more questions here that actually have more to do with poker strategy. First, I'm just going to, again, remind our YouTube chatters, you've got time to get a few more questions in if you like. Also, if you're watching us live, we share a portion of all our donations with a local food bank. So if you want to make a super chat or a super comment or a super sticky and help support what we're doing here at RecPoker, we share a portion of those with a local food bank. And there's also all sorts of other ways. If you go to rec.poker/support to help us out with our mission here to make the recreational poker world a better place. A lot of them don't involve you dropping a dime or spending a penny. But if you want to spend a penny, you can join our premium membership for $22 a month, which we would really appreciate. And we also have a fantastic Patreon platform where you can get audio versions of almost all of our premium training videos every month for only $10 a month. So go to rec.poker/support, check that out, support your local food bank, and get your last questions in for David here. All right, Rob Washam, you had some more sort of actual poker strategy related questions. Let's get into them.
Yeah. After listening to the people that were at his table in Australia, I don't know if this question is going to be meaningful, but I do play against some amateur players occasionally. And so my question to you is, what are the common mistakes you see that less experienced or less studied players make at the tournament poker tables?
That's a good question, Rob. I think that I would frame it in a way where, you know, I think there's some very obvious mistakes that people make. You know, like the very basic ones are like, you know, don't if a hand's good enough to raise, then raise it. Don't limp it. Or I'm trying to think of like another common one. Like maybe it's not as common in recreational poker circles, but I think generally when people bet the river, they tend to have it. So I think overfolding rivers is a good thing to do, or maybe people call rivers too often to see their opponent's hand. But if I was going to give a little bit of advice, or, you know, point out something that I think amateur players maybe trip up on a little bit more, I would say it's at the deep end of a tournament when you actually have got lucky. You've got deep. You're maybe in an event and you've got, you know, a nice 4-figure prize, 5-figure prize, even 6-figure prize up top. And I think that they possibly like play too tight when it comes to adjusting ranges from 9 or 10 handed tables to, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 handed tables. And I think it's really important to study your pre-flop ranges. That is the single most valuable fundamental that you can get right in your game. If you're playing too loose or too tight pre-flop, you're going to get chewed up. And there's no more place in a poker tournament where that's more applicable than where all the money is. So if you're on the final 2 tables of a tournament or the final table of a tournament and you're making a mistake there based on your pre-flop ranges, that is so much more, you know, detrimental to your ability to win money than it is in level 1. If you're actually going to make mistakes, if you're going to be speculative, if you want to just have a bit of fun and play poker, then do it in level 1. A mistake when you have 30,000 chips. If you want to open limp 6-4 suited at big blind 100 when you've got 30,000 chips, I wouldn't recommend doing it, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? But if you're gonna do it when there's 12 players left in a tournament, you're burning a lot of money to do that. If you're gonna, you know, get a little bit scared and fold, you know, pocket 8s to an open with 9 left, if you're not going to adjust your pre-flop ranges when there's 6 players left and you're going to open fold like king queen because you think you're under the gun and that's a difficult hand to play or whatever, then you're going to be making a mistake again. So I think the best thing that a recreational player can do, I think, the question you asked was, what mistakes do I see amateur players make? And I think both the mistake I see them make most and the one that I think would be most beneficial to their game is when they are in the late stages of a tournament, make sure that you're opening and playing your pre-flop ranges correctly. There's no more important thing than that in poker, I don't think.
So we're studying, what we need to be studying then is our poker ranges or opening ranges during a heavy ICM part of the tournament. Because that's when, you know, because I think a lot of people look at ranges and they just seem to be a generic range based on your chip stack, right? But really it changes quite a bit when you start bringing ICM into it.
Right.
So I think that's probably what we're talking about here, is to make sure that we understand how our ranges do change from the basic range to a much different range when ICM is in play.
Yeah, and just to you know, sort of finish off on that, the fact that you brought ICM into it's really important. I think I avoided using the term until then, but yeah, let's say if you're in the early stages of a tournament, maybe you've lost a big pot, you only have 14 blinds left, and you have 9-8 suited in the cutoff, and you're like, this is, you know what, this is good enough. I'm going to shove all in and try and win the blinds here. That might be okay at the early stages of a tournament. At the late stages, that's really, really bad. It's going to cost you a lot of money. That 14 big blinds in front of you is so important at that stage of the tournament. And understanding, I know I've kind of went off in 2 or 3 little tangents here and what my answer actually was, but making sure those pre-flop ranges are in tow at that stage of the tournament and respecting the amount of chips you have is, the crux of poker. If you're ever going to make money, you need to get those decisions right at that stage of the tournament.
Right. I have a follow-up question to that. You've obviously played a lot. So what are some of the aha moments that you've had in your poker learning? You said you had 15 years of experience before you played your first live tournament. So I'm assuming there's been a lot of aha moments, but is there anything in specific that you can point to?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. If you give me a couple of seconds, I'll see if I can think of one. But
Here, take
Yeah.
a second, David. Folks, if you just, while David's thinking about some of his aha moments in his own poker journey, just start typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat here, and that'll get you a raffle ticket for our prize giveaway at the end of the show. How'd I do, David? Did I give you a couple seconds there to vamp?
that was pretty good. Yeah.
All right.
So I think one thing that came up while I was thinking of that was if you're going to learn, if your goal is to improve at poker, I think it's really important to find a method that will be enjoyable to you and that speaks to you when you're learning. Now, for a lot of people, that might be learning on their own, reading from books, watching YouTube content, or subscribing to, something like Run It Once that provides video content or whatever. But for me, an aha moment was, I thought maybe when I was like 22, 23, that any content from any player that I consumed would be beneficial to my game. And what I discovered was that even though he always was a far better player than me, but I remember when Mike McDonald did trading videos on a site called Blue Fire Poker. It was the precursor to Run It Once, like Phil Galfon's site. And I thought he was one of the best players in the world. I really wanted to, learn how he thought about the game. I wanted to apply it to my own game. And I studied his videos as much as I could on Blue Fire. And I had the worst year of my career after doing it. And the aha moment was when I suddenly realized, after doing this for like 12 months, I suddenly realized we couldn't be two different players anymore in terms of our natural approach to the game. Like Timex at the time, Mike McDonald was very patient, very studied, very nuanced, very solid player. I had a little bit of a wild side to me, and I felt like once I caught on to that, I was like, his content's actually clipping my wings. I'm losing because I'm not playing my natural game anymore. So what I need to do is find a content creator, find a coach who understands how I think about the game, and try and improve what I'm good at, or try and undo some of the negative things that I'm doing based through my own personality. So I think, that would be the aha moment. Understanding that, especially in this world of poker these days, where everyone's aspiring to play GTO, or you hear that phrase getting thrown out, left, right, and center. There's actually multiple ways to play GTO in the context of how humans play poker, and you need to understand how you approach the game. And sorry, I can just hear myself echoing slightly. It's all right. Stuttering a little bit.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, you just have to understand how you think about the game, bring your own personality into it, make sure that if you're getting coaching, it's a good fit, make sure that the content you're consuming speaks to you. Don't just read something because you think you should read it. Don't just listen to someone because you think you should listen to them. Make sure that you're actually enjoying what you're learning.
So you basically, what you're telling all the poker coaches out there is to, when you're coaching someone, don't just try to infuse them with your thoughts, but take what they already have as a basis and expand on it and grow on it, and use what
Yeah.
the strengths that the person has already before you try to change their game. And
Yeah.
following up on that, are there mistakes that you are making today that you just can't avoid making? And you catch yourself making them and you go, hit yourself in the forehead and say, why did I do that again?
I think it happens more than you would expect. And I think it probably happens to, I think a lot of pros would say the same thing. I'm reminded of, if you've ever read Jared Tendler's Mental Game of Poker books, the inchworm concept, where
Yes.
you know you're
Yep.
you're trying to improve your B and C games more so than your A game, so that when you're not fully on it, you're still playing at a decent enough
Better
level.
than you were. Yeah.
Yeah,
Better than you were.
exactly. Yeah, but I will still occasionally not be fully focused in the moment, and I'll get to a post flop spot, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I'm under the gun here, and I have ace nine offsuit. How did this happen? But why did I open this? So, why did I forget that this isn't an open?
How did I get here?
Yeah, exactly. And then you got to figure out, like, oh, what have I done to myself now? I've got to just navigate from here. But yeah, there's always mistakes, like it, and I think that's another aha moment, if you like if you just strive for perfection all the time, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Like, I make mistakes constantly, I'm sure, and I pick up on some of them from time to time, and I don't want to make them, and I try not to make them, but I'm only human. Like, I'm going to make mistakes sometimes, so I don't want to beat myself up too much.
That's a great
Thank
answer.
you. Great answer.
We'll take this question from Dana about like the poker scene in Ireland, and then I know Lorianne has some questions about other sort of international poker destinations. How would you characterize the poker scene in Ireland? That's where the Irish Poker Open is. We've talked about the IPO a few times. It does feel like the Irish Poker Open in particular is like this annual thing that everyone comes out and socializes and enjoys and has fun doing. But other than that, are there what's the game like over there?
Well, first of all, can I say that this might be a blast from the past. I'm sorry if it's wrong, but I think I recognize Dana Craven from being a moderator on 2+2.
That is probably correct. If I know Dana, she's involved in the forums and that kind of stuff. That wouldn't surprise me.
And if that's also accurate, I think I'm remembering this correctly. I might break her heart here, but I think I remember knocking her out second or third one year for a WSOP main event package on Full Tilt. So I'm really sorry, Dana. It's like 15 years ago, but I'm sorry. I don't know if you remember that. I certainly still do.
That's a great callback.
Oh, she remembers.
Yeah. She remembers. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, you can make it up to her tonight by answering your question right here, direct on the show on the RecPoker podcast. Now, and I want to also preface this. You're Scottish. Scotland's part of the UK. Ireland is also over there. A lot, our Canadian and American audiences. We're not like crackerjack on our UK geography, but I guess I'm kind of curious about the game, not only in Ireland but in Scotland as well. But what have your playing experiences been like over
there? Yeah. So the question was Ireland related, right? I'm Scottish, so I do play in the UK more often. But I have played in Ireland a number of times over the years. I've played the Irish Open probably about a dozen times or something. I've played in Galway. I've played in Limerick. I've played in Cork. So I think what you'll find is that the Irish Poker Tour is a smaller stakes tour that isn't really trying to compete with anything in the UK. Most of the UK tours have a main event buy-in of around 1K, 1,200 or something like that. But the Irish tours are pitched around 300-400, I think. And they're really popping off at the moment. They've become really popular. Like, I don't know where they all are, but I do know that there's been one already this year where it was like a £400 buy-in, and I think they got like 75K for first or something. So it's a really popular tour. It's really picking up. It's a really fun place to play. It's still one of my favorite places to play in Europe, and I would say that regardless of whether I won that tournament or not. But yeah, it's somewhere that I think is really good for North Americans to experience. I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, Jim. And I don't know if any of you guys have been to Ireland or played the Irish Open in particular, but it's one that I would put on the bucket list for a North American player. If you've never played in Europe before, that is the stop that you should play. It's not even close. Like the camaraderie among the players, the fun element of the trip. The poker is almost secondary, but having said that, you will never have more fun at a poker table than you will in the Irish Open. Everyone there is just having fun, loving life, being there, and yeah, it's a great place to play. Yeah, and I think it's pretty healthy at the moment.
Yeah, and we, like I mentioned, we had JP on a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be talking to Paul O'Reilly in the next couple of weeks as well. A lot of RecPoker members have been out there. Some of them are in the YouTube chat tonight. And it was just, I can't say enough good things about the Irish Poker Open. I went last year and had a fantastic time, and I'd love to go back every year. So more power to you. Lorianne, you had some other questions about sort of like poker travel and that kind of thing.
I did. And actually, your last answer was a great segue into what my question was. Back to Hendon Mob, I've noticed that you captured quite a few flags. And I was going to ask, what are your favorite and least favorite places to play? So I said that segue was great because I think you kind of touched on what's your favorite place to play. You may have already answered that question.
I have, but not the one that you think I've already said. I would say the Aussie Millions in Melbourne is my favorite place to play. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, it hasn't come back yet. There's been rumors for a couple of years now that it's on its way back, and the most recent one I've heard is that it's going to be back in January next year. So that would be incredible if they brought that back. But I don't know whether it'll ever happen again or not. But Melbourne in January, so it's the Australian summer. I'm a big tennis fan. That's when the Australian Open is on. So every time you go down there, you get lots of the highest level tennis. Every year, the weather's like 30, 40 degrees Celsius. It's the casino itself is on the riverbank. There's so many beautiful restaurants and parks and places to go. It's just an incredible city at that time of year. Least favorite, I can also answer for you. There's a place called Rozvadov in the Czech Republic, which you may have heard of before.
Yes.
The WSOP Europe have hosted their events there for the last several years. I've played in Rozvadov twice. The first time I went there, I got like a bad stomach bug. I wasn't too well. I just didn't have a good trip. The second time I went there, I got pneumonia, and when I flew home, I was in bed for 8 weeks recovering. So
8 weeks?
Yeah.
8 weeks.
So I've said to my friends, the only time I will ever go back to Rozvadov is if I've already won an EPT and a WPT and I need a bracelet to complete the Triple Crown.
Triple Crown, yes.
That's the only time I will ever go back there. I hate the place so much. And I don't like spreading that kind of energy, but I do not like Rozvadov. Okay.
I'm almost sorry I asked.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. We were joking, David, when we mentioned that cleaning the chips orally was how they did things over there. You didn't actually have to do that. Now I feel bad. Now I feel bad. Sorry about that. All right, sorry, Laurie. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just, like I said, I hate to bring up what's obviously a bad memory. That's terrible. Another, I guess, to keep in that same genre or theme of things, can you, give me a personal opinion of the differences between playing tourneys in the United States and playing them in Europe?
It's a good question. I think that maybe the viewers won't like this answer so much. I think European poker is more sophisticated. I think there's a much higher concentration of unstudied players in the United States, and that takes its own skill set to navigate. I think you have to be a lot more patient in the US. You have to be a lot greedier with your value bets, and almost play like an exploitative style. Whereas I think if I'm playing in, this is for me saying, like, if I'm playing in the WSOP, I'll try and play like that. You play 9 or 10 handed in the US. That can be very hard to navigate if you're trying to play conventional opening ranges and 4 people are calling behind you. It's very, very hard to realize your equity in a hand if you're always going 4 or 5 way to a flop. So what you might see then at that point is the correct strategy might be to raise bigger pre-flop and raise tighter as well, so that you're getting more value immediately for your tighter range. And I don't really enjoy doing that. I prefer, as I said earlier, like playing my natural game. I don't like having to over-adjust to situations like that. But I do think you have to do it in the US a little bit more. Whereas in Europe, I'm not saying by any means that Europeans are more sophisticated people. I think the poker on average is more sophisticated. But I think you get a different type of weak player in Europe. I think US weaker players are a little bit more passive, a little bit more, splashy, wanting to see flops, turns, rivers, whereas the European player wants to put you in the blender, make you feel pain, and that brings its own problems as well. I think Italy is probably the country that characterizes that the most. So those would be the main differences. I would say. I think you have to be a little bit more coy in the US when you're playing.
Oh, I actually agree with that. Listening to what you said, based on my experiences, they haven't been many, but just based on playing with international players during the WSOP, and even during the WPT, Vice, playing with regulars here in Vegas, people that I see on a regular basis. When you mentioned about 4 to a flop, 4 or 5 to a flop, I'm like, yes, 9-handed table. So definitely can relate to that.
Yeah.
Joe Coolis, you had something, I think.
Yeah, so my wife is a big Anglophile, and so we watch a lot of shows on BritBox. And recently, in addition to saying "didn't" more frequently on a regular basis, I have this burning question to know: is have you ever been to Shetland, and why are there so many murders on that particular island?
Unfortunately, I haven't. I think this is true of many people, where I've probably saw more of the world than I have of my own country, even though it's beautiful in the north. It's absolutely stunning. But I don't really, when it's on your own doorstep, it feels like you can go anytime, and then you end up never going, if you know what I mean. So I've never been to Shetland, but in terms of island murders, I did go to the Isle of Man once, where the PokerStars office is based, and I don't want to insult anyone in the chat who's from the Isle of Man, but I have never felt stranger in a place talking to the populace than I did in that particular island. It really felt like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where I wasn't quite sure whether I was going to wake up with someone in my hotel room in the morning. I remember going to order a drink at the bar, and the guy refused to serve me, and I was like, wait a minute, why are you not serving me in a casino? I don't even think I wanted a beer. I think I wanted a Coke in a casino, and he refused to serve me. I was like, why are you refusing to serve me? And he said, because you're not playing poker, you're just watching it. My friend was on the cash table. He was like, you're not playing poker, you're only allowed to get drinks if you're playing. And I was like, all right. And I shouted on my friend, and he got up from the table, walked over to the bar, and ordered 2 Cokes. And he's like, here you go, sir. And I was like, come on, man. It's like, it was such a strange place. Maybe that anecdote doesn't quite, put it in the light that I want it to, but it was such a
That might be why
place.
There's so many murders there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aren't getting served their Cokes. I don't know.
It's funny though, because in the show in Shetland, which I don't know if you know, there is actually a show that it's all based on the island. they talk about the Isle of Man and how weird it is for the people that come over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
No, I
let
didn't
me
know
just
that.
a quick follow up. So, if somebody were to visit Scotland, right, where would you go? What would you see if you were like telling somebody where to go in Scotland? What would be interesting?
I mean, I would want to know what they find interesting first, I guess, because like what I find interesting might be boring to them. But I think we've got two very different major cities, where I think Edinburgh is more tourist focused. Like that's the one that if you're an American or a Canadian and you're flying over, you're more likely to see that. I'm from Glasgow, and I think Glasgow is more authentically Scottish. Now, Edinburgh is a stunning city. Don't get me wrong; you absolutely should go and see that as well if you come over. But I think if you want to experience good Scottish humour, a good Scottish night out, some absolutely beautiful architecture as well in Glasgow. If you're a Harry Potter fan, a lot of Harry Potter fans go to Edinburgh for to see the cafe where J.K. Rowling wrote the novels and see some of the architecture there. Glasgow University actually looks like Hogwarts,
It really
and
does.
it's like 500 years old. It's older than the United States, so that's pretty mind blowing for a lot of people. But we have incredible scenery here as well. Loch Lomond is like 40 minutes outside of Glasgow. It's just this huge lake with a lot of mountains around it. We have the tallest mountain in the UK. The Isle of Skye has a lot of beautiful hiking trails. That's very popular with tourists. Loch Ness, of course, if you want to go monster hunting. But yeah, there's so much to see. Like if you're a whiskey fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're a hiking fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're a movie fan, we have a lot of sets from movies that were filmed here. There's a lot to see. There's so much history as well, of course. But yeah, I don't think you could come to Scotland for 2 weeks and never have a boring day the whole time, I think.
Yeah, and I'd add the Valley of Glencoe to that list. Like, there's just so many beautiful places to go. Like, yeah, take as long as you can and just go trucking around such a beautiful spot. Joe, did you have any follow-ups there? All right, David, we're going a little long. I hope you don't mind. I'm enjoying the conversation so much. We're just going to take a couple more questions and wrap this up. I know you've got, and I'm sure you've got a big day of playing ahead of you tomorrow.
Don't worry about it, Joe. I'm fully aware it's my fault. I rabbit on like this all the time, and people are talking to me. So don't worry about it.
Well, we're having a great time, and I know the audience is enjoying it too. One quick question from your buddy Jack here: will you play 3-card Monty versus Will Kassouf?
What?
I was assuming there was a bit of a backstory there, but yeah, the question is: will you play 3-card Monty versus Will Kassouf?
I don't even know what 3-card Monty is, so I'm afraid I can't answer that. I don't know. I'll need to see what he means later.
So some of the other folks in the YouTube chat have some opinions of their own, which if folks want to check that out, come check it out yourselves. I want to ask you about getting off the felt. So you play a lot. I'm sure you have your own ways of studying. You're taking in poker content. You're thinking about poker all the time. What do you do to take a break? What do you do to reset your brain? And what does like quality recreational time mean for David Docherty?
Well, I should do it more often, Jim. I'm a really keen hiker when I get the opportunity, but I just don't do it as often as I should. And what I really should do, I've been showing my table mates earlier. We were talking about a few upcoming poker tournaments, and I was showing them what my schedule looks like for the rest of the year. And I was like, I'm probably going to be away from home for, like 70-75% of the year or something. I really need to book more vacations. Like that trip to Australia right before the Irish Open was my last vacation, I guess. Well, to be honest, I did go to Germany last year to watch the Scotland football team. We qualified. We qualified for the European Championship, but I paid €900 for the tickets and we lost 5-1. So I've sort of erased that memory from my mind now. But that was actually my last vacation. But yeah, I'm really keen for hiking and taking in other cultures, other cities, other countries. I want to take as many countries off, the bucket list as I can. Thankfully, poker's helped me a lot with that. But yeah, travel's my biggest passion. I know I'm maybe not delving in as deep as maybe you were hoping, but yeah,
more people should do it.
I could speak about travel all day. Like, I'm just so passionate about it. I want to see as much of the world as I can while I'm still young, and yeah, hopefully have another big vacation coming up soon.
Yeah,
you've actually motivated me to book something now. I'm probably going to go.
There you go.
After this podcast and
nice. Well, I'd love to give you a tour of Southern Ontario over here in Canada. I recommend the summer months. Get on over here come summertime, and we'll share great stuff.
You've got an opportunity now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Toronto's what. You even notice how I'm saying it, Jim? Toronto is one of my favorite cities.
Very authentically natural. Yeah, it's like you grew up in my backyard. I can tell already. That's fantastic. Yeah.
But I've been in the islands in the summer. It's a beautiful place.
Nice. Yeah, I like it too. And I do think there's a lot of great stuff to see in Canada as well. You guys have all the history. We've got all the geography. It's just like it just goes. But yeah, come on out we'll have a good time in Montreal. Get up to the playground. Have a few Long Island iced teas. That sounds like a fun time. We were going to wrap it up, but I want to take one quick segue here. David, over the years, how has the way that you have studied poker changed? And how do you currently study poker? How do you improve your game today as a pro? And then we'll wrap this puppy up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the solver era has changed everything. As much as I would want to give a more interesting answer, I think ever since the pandemic, all of my poker study has been solver based. I do all my own work with it. I will run solutions or sims past friends and get some input from them. But yeah, most of my day, if I'm studying at home, I will just be sitting on DTO or GTO Wizard and grinding through spots. Like, maybe most of my focus recently has been on something called node locking, which might be unfamiliar to some people, but it's the idea that you tell the solver essentially what you think your opponent's strategy is, and then the solver will tell you how to counteract that strategy. So you get some more interesting answers than just blindly looking at charts or perhaps applying the wrong strategy in the wrong spot. But yeah, in my early days, it was all book related, as I mentioned, alluded to earlier. More content, just watching other players explain their thought processes. The first book I ever bought was the Theory of Poker by David Sklansky, and it was the hardest book that I've ever read in my life. I think I tried to finish it like 4 or 5 times, and I'm not sure that I actually got to the end of it because it was such difficult reading. But I'm sure that still had some influence on my game for sure. It was a very important book. But I never really read anything nowadays. I never really watch any content unless it's like watching streams in particular. Like, I watch live streams and maybe try and pick up on some live tells or some sizing tells on players that I'm going to play with regularly or whatever. But 99% of my study these days is solver based, as boring as that is.
No, I get it, man. I mean, that's the future of the game for sure. All right, well, folks, we're gonna close the interview here. We're gonna play 2 little games with David, closing the action and stake study stack. I just want to give folks one last chance to type the words food bank into the YouTube chat. This is your way of entering the raffle, which we'll do at the end of the show. And I just want to mention that the reason why we support local food banks is because it's a great way to get a fantastic ROI on your charitable donation, whether it's a few dollars out of your pocket, a few volunteer hours out of your week, or some non-perishable food items from your fridge. It's never been a better time to help folks in need, and a great way to make the world a better place is just to feed some hungry people in your own neighborhood, in your own community. So if you pull out your smartphone and just Google food banks near me, you'll find some places that can benefit from your help, and I hope that you do. So yes, that's why we do it. We're going to give away a fantastic prize at the end of the show. Rob Washam, you are in charge of all our fantastic prizes. What's the fantastic prize that they might win this week?
Well, I was watching a Learning with Partners video from Red Chip Poker. It was titled "Don't Pay Them Off" by Ed Miller. And that message really resonated with me because, as the title states, "Don't pay them off" means that recreational players bluff at such a low frequency, something David mentioned earlier, that you should fold all but your best value hands to a bet on the river. And if you want any more of this type of content, you can go to Red Chip Poker, which has a structured course for learning poker called Core. So go to rec.poker, click on Resources, Learning Partners, Red Chip Poker, and learn how you can get a free week of Core by using the promo code RecPoker. And we'll be giving away, for anybody that doesn't already have a RecPoker Premium membership, when you win the food bank drawing, you will get a free month of Red Chip Poker.
Right on. All right. So, Chris Jones, you have been thinking about some names for Stake Study Stack. Why don't you see what we can do to put David in the blender?
Yeah, so David, we usually have some names prepared before we start, but often some come in through the show that make me adjust, and tonight is no exception. So I'm going to give you 3 names. We call this game Stake Study Stack. You're going to pick one who you'd like to study with, one that you'd like to stake in a poker game or tournament, and one who you would like to, like nothing else than to stack them at the table and take all of their chips. And your 3 names are all-time money leading Scottish player Niall Farrell, Annette Oberstad, and Jack Hardcastle.
Oh, that's cruel. Oh God. Well, I'm going to have to go with study with Annette first of all, because Jack is absolutely hopeless as a study buddy. Like, I ask him over and over again to come on a call with me and look over some stuff, and he's always got something better to do. So Annette has to be the study buddy. Feraldo or Jack in terms of stake or stack. Now, this is problematic because you're probably expecting me to say stack Jack Hardcastle based on his comments in the chat, but I might say stack Neil Farrell. Now, if you've never played with Neil or you don't know him before, he's a very jovial guy at the table. He's a lot of fun to play with, but he also enjoys a beverage or two when he's playing, as does Jack actually. But Neil has a very particular way of busting, and if you ever get the pleasure or mispleasure of playing with him, you'll get to experience this. Neil has in recent times told me that I hope he hopes I catch an incurable disease as he's left the table. He's always great fun to play with. So I'll go with study with Annette, stack Neil Farrell, and I will stake Jack Hardcastle despite the fact that he never wins me any money when I swap with him.
Fair.
Thank you. That was a great answer. All right, now we're going to close the action with our speed round. So, David, we're going to try and get through as many of these questions as we can. We're not going to take more than 2 minutes, so I need you to really hit it. The first thing that comes into your mind, you can say pass. David Docherty, are you ready to close the action?
No.
All right, well, we're going to do it anyway. Here we go. Bring it in. Start with an easy one. David, what is your favorite poker hand?
Ace-7 offsuit.
Oh, what a baller answer. All right.
Oh,
A gamble or a skill name?
It's like gamble or skill game. Gamble.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
People taking too long to turn over their cards after hand is completed.
Yes, great answer. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
Yes.
Is a taco a sandwich?
No.
What about a hot dog? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No. It's a hot dog.
What's one thing you are afraid of?
Afraid of. Wasps.
Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Busy.
What about an open face sandwich? Is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
What's an open face sandwich?
Okay, well, we're moving on.
It's got the word sandwich in it. We'll say yes.
Is a royal flush a straight flush?
Yes.
Yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Slow down.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
100% of the time, yes. Always.
Oh, God. Well, we haven't had that one before. You're getting down to the end of a tournament. Are you pro chop or no chop?
No chop.
Name one excellent musical artist. Doesn't have to be your favorite, but one that you enjoy. Musical artist.
21 Pilots.
What's one thing you cannot live without?
Oh,
It's the ticking. The ticking really makes it hard.
My caps.
Okay, yeah, good choice. All right, we're going back in time to when you were a kid. What's your favorite childhood family holiday meal? Going deep.
Holy shit. Oh, I had a pizza when I was 5 years old, and the lights went out at the restaurant after I'd been served my pizza, so none of the rest of my family got their food, only I got mine.
That's great. All right, who is your poker nemesis?
Adrian Mateos.
No, great answer. All right, we can cut the time. That is the end of the speed round. I want to tell you, so we're going to dock you a couple points for the open face sandwich ignorance. An open face sandwich is just where there's only one piece of bread. So there's the bottom piece of bread and then the toppings, but there's no top piece of bread. So now that you understand, is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
Yes, because you can put a knife through the middle and then fold it over and it's a sandwich again.
Oh, all right. We have a philosopher in the room, folks. Last question. You and I, we see eye to eye on a lot of things when it comes to sort of like making the world a better place, improving the recreational poker world, being kind to people generally, that kind of stuff, treating others with respect. What's one thing that the poker world needs to do differently?
What's one thing that the poker world needs to do differently? Oh my God, I'm glad I wasn't on the clock for this one.
Yeah, that's why we take the clock away for this one. It's too tense.
Yeah, I think I will go with, how do I phrase this? This is good. It kind of goes to our philosophy that we're talking about. It's maybe a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think protect problem gamblers more, because we have a system here in the UK. It's actually very common in the GUKPT, which I'm just playing just now, which is called KYC, stands for Know Your Customer. And you get checked on your earnings like quite frequently before you play. Now, it's happened to me a lot. I've had to provide documentation and what have you, but it's not the right system for what it claims to be, because all it checks really is that you have enough money in your bank account, but then you can go downstairs and fire 10 bullets in the main event and lose £12,000. So I think there needs to be a more open discussion on what is the right balanced attitude to both protect problem gamblers, but not handcuff professional players at the same time.
That's a great answer. I'm just doing some quick math here. Your total is 586 points. I think we just docked a few for the open face thing, but still a very respectable score in the high 500s. You should feel very, very proud of yourself. Maybe, still
know
leaving
we're
yourself
running-
some room to
Sorry,
peak
Jim.
on a future appearance, perhaps. Yeah, Lorianne.
I know we're running a little long, but I have to ask a question, or I will not be able to sleep tonight. There's a story behind the ace-7 offsuit. I'm stuck on ace-7 offsuit. It's your favorite hand. I'm like ace-7. Did not see that one coming.
It's just a hand that has had a lot of stories behind it for me over the years. I actually Jack Hardcastle was in the chat, and we'd played a couple of. It was bizarre that it came out like this, but we'd played a number of important pots between us over the years where I happened to have ace-7 offsuit, and one of them was where we cross booked a tournament when we both didn't have a lot of money. Now, cross booking is where you sort of agree to pay a percentage of the prize pool to the other player based on where they finished to make it a higher stakes tournament. So we were playing a £50 tournament, and first prize was maybe like £900, and we had a cross book on to make it higher stakes. And I had a huge chip lead early on, and Jack was getting very nervous because he was thinking it was going to have to pay me £900 in this £50 tournament. And at one stage, I think he open shoved for like 15 or 16 blinds, and I spike called him with ace-7 offsuit, even though I knew it wasn't a call. And he had pocket deuces, so it was the perfect scenario. And I knocked him out and went on and finished third in that tournament and cost him like £400 or something. So it's got a very special place in my heart. That hand.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that.
It's funny how like some of the favorite poker memories that we have,
Jack's heart too. Huh?
they're like sticking it to our buddies, right? Like it's so fun. We're all such terrible people. It's like these are our great memories, like the hands that we beat our friends. All right, fantastic. Well, David, this has been a pleasure. I knew it would be. I know you're on Blue Sky. Are there other places that people can sign up or follow you on, or do you have a newsletter, or how can people get more David Docherty in their lives if they enjoyed the show tonight?
Yeah, the only two socials that I'm active on are Blue Sky, and I think you've already shared that, and Instagram, where I'm DavidDoc87. But those are the only two you'll find me on. Anyone else is an impersonator.
All right. Well, I'll make sure to get those. I'll make sure to get those handles into the show notes as well, so folks can get involved at the touch of a button. I just want to say thanks again, man. This was such a pleasure chatting with you. I knew it would be. I'm already looking forward to stumbling across your path another time. I take it you'll be back in Dublin for the IPO in April.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've already got it booked up. If you guys are there, I'd love to see you, get you a pint. Or
yeah, count on it. Yeah, no, for sure. First Guinness is on me. Well, that's going to be a pleasure. All right, David Docherty, everyone, we got him. Thanks again, David. We'll talk to you again sometime soon, I hope.
Bye, David.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to be on. Sorry for keeping you so late.
No, we had a great time. Already looking forward to the next conversation. All right, now let's. We had a couple of things to cover tonight, but I think we're just going to skip through because we are getting on, and we've got our planning meeting, and the freaking Vikings are in a playoff game. We got to get some of these guys off to. Yeah, Joe's so excited at the prospect. John Somsky, why don't you regale us with some recent home game results and who the Learn Pro Poker winner is? Plus, we had so much fun putting David on the spot with the ticking time bomb sound effect. We've got something new and fun for you tonight, John. That's going to add a little pressure. You like pressure.
Oh, yay.
Let's see how you do.
So this last Wednesday was our mixed game change. We keep track of player of the year points, and don't chase 666. Joseph Armstrong won the first mixed game championship of the year, and therefore he is winning the player of the year points race at this point.
Nice.
Jay Sedum, Jeff S., got his first nightly victory for the year. Bruce K54, Bruce Kiefer got his first nightly victory for the year. Poker Geek MN John Somsky got his second nightly victory
There
for
he
the year.
is.
K Poker wannabe Ron Payton got his second nightly victory for the year. Carl 0261, Carl Anderson got his first nightly victory for the year. Rick the Good Dog won the first international event. Evil Roy CA,
Nice.
David Westerveld got his first international event. And Dandy Reggie Daniel A won the LPP event. So he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
There you go. Yeah, the home games are free to enter, but the prizes are free. So Dan, check it out. Email info@rec.poker. And we had another ticking sound effect that was going to hopefully add some pressure to your perfect recitation, John. But we're gonna have to save that one for next week. It sounds like.
All right.
And I'm putting the call out. If you haven't joined our home game club, make sure that you enter and come up with a really hard name, a hard username. I want to see like a username for new members in our home game club, like lots of ones and L's all next to each other and like capital I's, maybe some like some Welsh town names or something like that. I think that would be a really fun way to make John uncomfortable. All right, that as it may, we got to mention that coming up at the end of the month here, we are heading out on Thursday. I'm going to be there on Thursday, January 30th. And then we are going to have tournaments all day on Friday, the 31st, and Saturday, the 1st. There's going to be cash games. There's going to be a one-day mystery bounty. We're going to be benefiting a local food bank. This one's going to be the Second Harvest Heartland, which is a fantastic organization. And there's going to be a whole ton of fun going on at Running Aces the last weekend of the month. So there's even a discounted hotel rate. If you go to the calendar, rec.poker/events, you can find out more information about that. And I think the runaces.com even has some details on their website there. So come on out and have a great time with us at Running Aces this weekend. It is going to be a great time. All right, Rob Gardner, producer, you have a food bank raffle winner to announce, I think. We're going to roll the spin of the wheel of infamy here. And if you are not a Rec Poker premium member, you'll win a month at premium membership here at Rec Poker. But if you are already a premium member, you're going to win a month at for God's sake, John, Rob,
Red Chip Poker.
Red Chip, get that core. All right, who's it going to be? Jade and Jewel looks like. All right, Jade and Jewel, I know who you are, but I'm not going to dox you. I'm not going to be polite. I'm not going to dox you. Congratulations, and send that email to info@rec.poker. You're going to love getting into what they're doing over there at Red Chip. And we got some more comments in the YouTube chat. Dana Craven's winning the home game tonight. She's calling her shot. Good luck to you, Dana. Do it. Martha Reed, my mom, apparently enjoyed the interview. So Scottish. Yes, indeed. He was very Scottish. Thanks for tuning in, Mom. Phil Razor says he might be coming out for the Running Aces event. And that would be great. We would love to see that. Lunch is on me, pal, if you can make it. All right. Well, then I think that's it, folks. Without further ado, thanks for everyone for having a great time. I know I did. I want to thank David Docherty, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, Chris Jones, John Somsky, Joe Coolis. I'm sorry, I'm losing my stuff today. Lorianne Persinger, Rob Washam, everyone here in the YouTube chat for their participation. This was super fun. Hope you come back next week. And all you at home, thanks for doing it. We wouldn't do it without you. So listen in and thanks. We'll see you next week on the Rec Poker Podcast. Let's get out of here.